communication.
Oh, go on. I'll make a comment. We're still continuing to get semi-traffic on Midway Road between Coop and Noe Road heading east from the Appleton Industrial Park. I got some friends that live on the south side of Midway. They're right next to there's a little retention pond there, and they're averaging 5 semi trucks a day. Even with our new stop sign now that we have on Coop and Midway, there's 5 semi trucks a day still using Midway heading out to east down Midway to N, and then they're exiting N headed out to Highway 10. And I know with the industrial park and Appleton continuing to fill up, that traffic may get worse. And today I noticed it was a red semi, but you couldn't read the lettering on the side of it. But there's no any way we can monitor that but even with the no truck signs there, they're continuing to use our residential roads there for 18-wheeler truck traffic. And that's what I'll have on that.
So Chad, if you want to work with
The sheriff's
the sheriff's department on dealing with those issues, appreciate it. Next, I guess I'll make some comments. So first, I want to say thank you for everybody being here. It's quite an honor and a privilege to be sitting here as your elected village president. My goal is going to try to make all our meetings run efficiently, smoothly, and transparently, and involve the community in government. So that being said, Chad, I don't know if you want to explain to the folks here the different format that we discussed about how we are going to be going through our meeting.
Sure. So once we get into the actual agenda items under particularly number 12, new business for discussion, consideration, and action, the chair will basically say the item 12A. The clerk will read the item, and then we will open it up for a vote to get a motion on the table by the board. And then there will be if there's any additional discussion from the staff, that will happen, and then there'll be an opportunity for the board members, trustees to ask questions, and then we will take a vote. The goal is to not have stuff happening after the vote. So we'd like to see that the vote kind of is the end, and then we're going to move on to the next agenda.
Okay, thank you. Corrections and approval of the previous meeting minutes.
Well, just a point of clarification too, Scott, you had said that as issues come up, concerned citizens will have a time, if appropriate, however you worded that, to say something as opposed to a preamble on the beginning. You would be allowed to say something at that time if it's applicable.
Yep, as long as we can keep the meeting moving and it adds value, that's perfectly fine, yes. Corrections and approval of the previous meeting minutes. Looks like we have February 25th hanging out there.
I'll make a motion to approve draft number 4.
I'll second it. Any discussion?
President Hatchett, just
Okay, please.
one comment. Trustee Thiel was not here for that meeting, so you'll have to abstain.
Okay, please vote your ballot.
Trustee Baldwin, can you tell me if it lets you? Come through.
Okay, we have motion passed with 1 abstention. Next up is February 28th meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from March 28th, 2025? Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 28th.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll have to vote, go ahead and vote your ballot.
Cindy Crester,
I'm sorry.
it's okay.
Okay, we have approval with one abstention. Next up, we have public comments. We have two people signed up. We have, is it Phyllis Reader? Would you like to come up and say a few words, please?
My name is Phyllis Reader. I live at N9135 Mountain Ash Lane. We were in attendance last month, our neighbors and myself as well, in regards to the ditch pans in our neighborhood, and it was tabled until this month. So I did have some comments I wanted to add to that before it's considered later in the agenda today. So one of the big things that we feel strongly about is that as residents, the six neighbors involved in this, we don't feel like it's something that we should be charged for, because I've lived in the neighborhood 26 years, as some of my neighbors have as well, since the inception of the neighborhood. We've never had the problems that we've had until last year, after the road work was done in the summer and fall of 2023. So when I moved in, we had a ditch. Over all these years, we knew what to expect. There's been problems, and that was fine. But until that road work was done, we now have ditches we can't maintain. So last summer, never a single time was I able to mow the grass down into my ditch. We had to use a weed trimmer, the entire thing, whenever we could get close to it, because it's always muddy. We are at the far corner of the subdivision where everything else drains. And we have other neighbors that it does not drain as well, but when theirs dries out, it does dry out. Ours never dries out because we're at the far end. So last summer, I spent the entire year pulling out cattails, which I've never had cattails in my ditch before. We have other neighbors that their cattails got to be 5 to 6 feet above the surface of the road. And that's a big problem because we are 2 blocks from Janet Berry Elementary. The reason we moved to the neighborhood because it's a good school, and we continue to have families move in because it's a good school and it's going to draw that. So it's a problem because we have toddlers and little kids on bikes, scooters, and now they have all the little motorized vehicles, and you can't see those. So when our neighbors who like nature or are a generation older than myself and cannot maintain these ditches, you cannot see these little kids buzzing in and out. So it's not only a liability issue for me as a homeowner. When I back out of my neighborhood or out of my driveway, I am so careful. You know, I've got my mirrors in my car, I'm looking this way, I'm turning, but I'm still afraid that, you know, you're going to miss something. So if I'm liable as a homeowner, if something happens, God forbid, the village would also be responsible. We brought this forth before, and we just can't maintain it. You know, we're given something that when we try to work in the ditch, it gets deeper. It's clay, but yet when we try to build it a certain way to, you know, facilitate water flow, it's not happening. Over all these years, we've tried everything, but it just became a bigger problem last year, again, after that road work was done and the ditches were redone. So, you know, we really would like to try the ditch pans. You know, we have neighbors at the further end beyond our neighborhood or beyond our houses that do have that. And as all of our neighbors, we're all in each other's ditches all the time. So to say that nobody's going to maintain them, we're all looking out for ourselves as well as our neighbors. So if we're given something we can work with, we're happy to have that. You know, we have some of the houses affected. One is a neighbor that just moved in with 4 little kids. And when we brought up the fact that we may have to pay $2,700, that's a big hit to them. They just moved in, they didn't expect that. So 3 or 4, I think 4 of us in attendance tonight, we're all retired. So it's not something in my budget that I would put for. And if the ditch would have been left like it was, I wouldn't have had the problem. I had accepted what I had. I could work with it. You know, we're not asking for parks. We're not asking for sidewalks. We just want to be able to use our front yards. So And again, we're not in the country, we're not side road, it's not on the side of my house, it's not in my backyard. This is right up my front door. This is what I have to look at every day. So, I know I didn't hit on every point, but Greg last month presented, and I know you've been working with Chad. And some of you others have been involved in this as well. I just wanted people to understand that this isn't an old problem. I mean, it was a problem, but it was never to the extent, and it wasn't something we asked for. We're just looking for help to make it workable so that we can maintain and go about our happy little lives. So I don't know if there's anything that I missed on that, but maybe some of the others may have something to add later on, but is there anything that I can address to any of you?
We like to save that for our discussion, during the agenda, item, just to follow
Sure.
the agenda and the rules.
Okay,
So, thank you.
that sounds good. Thank you.
All right, Kim, you're up. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
I'm Kim Runkle. I live at N9130 South Johann Drive. And our road is gonna be redone this year. And in talking to one of our neighbors, we were wondering, because I know some of the ditches and culverts are gonna be replaced. So when that happens, but how far is the asphalt gonna be replaced? Just as far as the work is being done, or will it be all the way up to the concrete in the driveway?
The apron, you mean?
Yeah,
Have you been to any of the previous meetings?
no,
Have you been invited to them?
not yet.
Okay, so there was two, so I'm just verifying whether you're in the boundary of what we're gonna be constructing, because we did have two meetings and we've sent out 3 letters to all the property owners on what's happening up until this time frame.
We have not received any letters.
What's your address?
N9130 South Joanne. Johann.
Okay. So there's a meeting coming up on May 7th at 5:30 here with the contractor for the pre-bid, so I would encourage you, if you can make that, to
Okay,
come to learn what's happening, but the intent is to only go up to wherever the right-of-way line is and repave to that line.
okay,
And so it'd be all dug out, new culverts on every property, and then repaving up to that line.
okay,
But we will have that information at the meeting or stop by the village hall sometime, and I'd be happy to talk with you.
okay. Were the letters sent in the mail?
The letters were sent in the mail to every property owner.
We never received it.
Okay, so that's what I want to just make sure that you were in the boundaries of where we're constructing.
Okay,
Because there are some people out there that aren't getting it just based on the sheer fact of where they live.
yeah, and our neighbor, I don't believe he received it either because he was talking to me about it. So,
Yeah, either you can call a village hall, stop by, or come to the meeting on the 7th.
we'll do.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comments? Anybody?
I'd like to speak on it.
Sure.
Joseph Tanner, N9536 Silver Court. I'm here for item R, which is the Troop 135 waiver of rental fees. So for the past, I'm guessing 8 years, I've organized Halloween in the park. The reason I took that over was or helped was after the event got canceled one year when the 4-H club couldn't find enough help to continue with the event. So Phil Hippus and I got together, and he brings decorations and I get volunteers, and we make the event go, and with scouts and Key Club from the high school and some other groups. So we hold the event. So then I looked in the packet here today, and a couple months ago I talked to I stepped out of my role as Cub Master for PAC 3061 because my son had moved on to Boy Scouts. And I talked to the incoming scout or Cub Master, and I said, we're gonna do this event again, I'd be more than happy to organize it. And he said, yeah, let's do it. Well, then I look in the agenda here today and I see that 135, Troop 135, which my son is a part of now, they said that they're going to be taking over the Halloween in the park, and this is all news to me. Hadn't heard anything before. I picked this up today. So I'm asking the board approve the Court of Honor, but table the October 25th Halloween in the park. I have some questions that I need to find out. And one of them is the 4-H going to be invited to participate in this event? Because they're the ones that were participating in this prior to scouts getting involved. I think it's only fair to the 4-H group. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, next up, we have a presentation on water and sewer capital recovery by Healers.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm John Cameron with Ellers, and I had put together a memo on a number of things relative to capital recovery for water and sanitary sewer facilities, and I'll kind of walk through that verbally with everyone this evening. The purpose of the memo was really informational at this point, but meant to kind of set the stage for historical look back on how the utility has been recovering capital costs on water and sewer facilities, some options and pros and cons for each option for capital recovery as it relates to new development within the utilities, and then some initial recommendations for potential blueprint moving forward for capital recovery for both sewer and for water. So, like I said, I'll walk through kind of the memo verbally with everyone this evening, starting with a historical analysis of the different methods for capital recovery. On the sanitary sewer side, the utilities have a sewer connection fee that's been in place for a number of years. It was last updated in 2023. There are 4 different connection fees depending on the geographic area that a new connection is coming into the system. So depending on where you live or where your business is located and you're pulling a permit, you're subject to one of those 4 different connection fee areas. The connection fees in general go for capital recovery. So the growth share of capital recovery relative to sanitary sewer lift station upgrades, as well as, and in some cases, oversizing of sanitary sewer mains. On the water side, the village historically has had a water connection fee in place, and that connection fee was done away with as part of a previous conventional water rate case through the Public Service Commission, and we'll talk in a little bit about why that was. But right now, the village has and the utilities have no capital recovery for new growth as it pertains to either a connection fee or an impact fee that's on the books for new development. In terms of options for capital recovery, there's a number of different methods that municipalities across the state of Wisconsin use to recover capital related costs for water and for sewer when new development comes in and connects to the system. The first one is one that you're currently using on the sewer side, and that is connection fees. So connection fees under state law are really kind of governed under the section of statutes relative to municipalities setting and establishing user fees. And as part of those user fees, they can have a one-time user fee, which is what your sewer connection fee is, a one-time fee upon connection into the system. So really at the issuance of the building permit to recover specific capital facilities necessary to serve new development. So oftentimes it's oversizing of facilities. It's specific new facilities that are planned and implemented relative to new development. So unlike an impact fee that has its own state statute with specific provisions that I'll talk about here in a second, a connection fee is governed under that section of statutes relative to allowing municipalities to establish user fees. The pros for a connection fee is that they're generally easy to calculate and quantify and work with. The other pro is that utilities are not restricted to their use of funds, and oftentimes they're done on what's called a buy-in basis, where when new development is coming in, the calculation is set such that they're buying into the excess capacity that the utility and its ratepayers have made available to new development. So in a lot of cases, it's either offsetting the revenue requirement that the utility is needing to generate through its user rates to be able to operate the utility. In many cases, it's also going to help pay for specific debt related to those new development facilities. So facilities, generally speaking, are large dollar amount projects that utilities have to borrow for. Connection fees are another source of revenue in addition to user fees to help offset the principal and interest payments related to the debt outstanding on those projects. They also can be used to pay for one-time capital expenses within the utility. The con against a connection fee, and this really goes to connection fees, impact fees, is that they're totally reliant upon the issuance of the building permit. In times of economic upturn and strong economic growth like we're experiencing right now, where building permits are being pulled at a fairly good clip, connection fee revenue comes in in kind. When we go through an economic downturn or building permits have dried up, or you've reached a period where you're kind of approaching build out, those impact or connection fees do not come in nearly at the same clip that they were. And it doesn't take long to think back to the period of the Great Recession, where prior to that, a lot of municipalities put connection fees, impact fees in place to deal with the demands of high growth. We went into that period of the Great Recession, where in some years municipalities were experiencing maybe a handful of building permits, if that. So it's a revenue source that is volatile year in and year out. On the water side, connection fees, because they fall upon that section of statutes relative to user rates, fall to the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission, which is the entity that municipalities have to go through to establish new water rates. The Public Service Commission has not allowed connection fees on the water side, and when you went through your last rate case starting in 2019, as part of that review process, the PSC disallowed the utility from collecting water connection fees moving forward. And no municipality across the state that I'm aware of has water connection fees in place. Another option that's available is impact fees. You've got a number of impact fees. I was just in front of this board, at the end of last year, beginning of this year, for new impact fees on the transportation side, as well as updates to your existing impact fees. You certainly have the ability to impose water and sewer impact fees for the recovery of capital assets. You need to go through a public facilities needs assessment, just like you just went through with your other existing impact fees. That requires you to take an inventory of your existing facilities, document the deficiency growth analysis for those new facilities that you're going to recover with an impact fee, put that study out there, go through a public hearing process, and update your ordinance accordingly. The pro to impact fees is that they're fairly prescriptive and transparent in how they're calculated. There's a public hearing process that you need to go through. That goes with the imposition of them. The cons are to a connection fee. Impact fees have a sunset provision. You've got to use those fees within 8 years or refund them back to the properties for which they were collected. They are specific to the projects that you list in your needs assessment, so it requires much more active management. You've got to make sure that you're using them, for the facilities for which you're imposing them. If those projects change in scope or just go away and get replaced, you really need to come back and update that needs assessment accordingly. And really on the water side, they are, next to special assessments, your only option for capital recovery. But when you go in for your next conventional rate case, Public Service Commission will do a pretty deep dive into those impact fees. They'll want to know a lot of history about what they're being used for, and to make sure that they're being used properly. And like connection fees, they're totally reliant upon the issuance of the building permit. Impact fees are paid at the issuance of the building permit. They again can be a volatile source of revenue as the market ebbs and flows over time. The other option is special assessments. Special assessments have their own state statute and a very prescriptive process for levying those. They are an exercise of police powers generally of the municipality, with a lien being placed on the property for which the special assessment is imposed. The pros for using special assessments for capital recovery is that it constitutes a lien on the property. So unlike impact fees or connection fees that are totally reliant on the issuance of the building permit, once the assessment is made, if it is an active assessment, generally the property owners either pay that assessment upfront in a lump sum payment, or they pay it over time per the terms that are outlined in the engineer's report and the final resolution that goes along with the special assessment. So generally speaking, it's 5 or 10 years for repayment, but every municipality and assessment is different in terms of the time period for recovery. The cons are that if there are deferred assessments, so you're putting in a special assessment in place and you say defer those assessments until the time that a property connects to the system, you're still needing to make those debt service payments if you're borrowing for it, or cover that capital in the interim. And connection or special assessments can be deferred for an awful long period of time. So that definitely needs to be taken into consideration as you plan. Like impact fees, they also require a good deal of active management over their lifespan. You've got to make sure that when somebody comes in and connects, what special assessments are applicable to them, that you are, if they're paying over a period of 10 years, that you're ensuring that those payments are going out with the tax bills at the end of the year, and that they're being tracked over their lifespan. So kind of coming together and looking at a blueprint for how you might move forward. We've been working with staff, looked at a number of different options and walked through kind of the pros and cons that I've walked through with you tonight. And on the sanitary sewer side, what is recommended, at least initially for discussion, is to move ahead with a kind of a two-pronged approach for capital recovery. Continue to use the connection fee model that you have in place. It's been a model that has worked fairly well for the utility over the years. It was just updated a few years ago in 2023. It's possible that you may look at consolidating zones to make things easier from an administrative standpoint to the extent that's warranted. You also may look to update that in the future to start to incorporate other projects that were recommended as part of some of the past study efforts that were done for your lift station feasibility study that I think was just completed fairly recently. And then when you do have situations where you're required to extend mains and potentially look at running new mains into different areas, utilizing special assessments to recover those specific capital costs. So think of your connection fee as more the regional facilities and recovery of regional facilities, so lift stations, oversizing of mains might also be an area where you could continue to use connection fees, but then smaller area specific projects, utilizing special assessments, may still be a warranted, pathway forward. On the water side, also consider a two-pronged approach, but in lieu of a connection fee, move potentially to a water impact fee when you get to the point of having projects that warrant going through the public facilities needs assessment. You're looking at the utilities capital improvement plan over the next 5 years. There certainly are projects in there. They're more smaller, routine capital projects that may not rise to the level of needing an impact fee, but to the point where when you get to the point of needing another source of supply, storage, those larger capital facilities where, from an engineering standpoint, you're also factoring in oversizing for new growth. That's certainly the trigger point where you then come back to how are we thinking about capital recovery? There's certainly the water rates for the non-growth share of that project, but impact fees could certainly help pay for the growth share of those capital costs. And then utilizing special assessments where warranted for main extensions and really as part of your rate tariff, and that's a standard language in all utility tariffs that the Public Service Commission publishes, is there is a water main extension rule that generally pushes a utility towards special assessing for project costs where warranted, and potentially looking at developers paying for those costs in situations where you may not be special assessing. So say through a development agreement, you're going to require a developer to put in the necessary infrastructure dedicated then to the utility. That's certainly an avenue to look at as well. But a two-pronged approach for both water and for sewer. The nice thing is that they generally mirror each other. You don't have one approach for sewer and a completely different approach for water. It's generally we're going to special assess for those projects that are more area specific, that might just benefit that specific area. Larger regional facilities with growth components, we're going to utilize impact fees or connection fees for the proportionate share of capital recovery. So that's kind of the high points from the memo. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. And I think, this is being put out here now from a presentation standpoint as really just information and general food for thought. Certainly, if you have reactions to kind of what we're talking about, happy to take those. But at this point, I think it's more informational in nature.
Any questions from the board? Okay. Chad, you got any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much and have a good night.
You too. Okay, next up are our reports. Most of you have seen the reports, but I had a request from Fire Chief. Wanted to take an opportunity to introduce our new member to the fire department.
Yeah, we have a new hire here with us tonight, and I'd like to introduce to the board and members of the community. Craig Meyer, he's our new community risk reduction officer. So you're going to see his face out and about quite a bit. He's going to be doing the overwhelming majority of the inspections, make sure that our businesses are in compliance and ultimately are safe for everybody to be in. So,
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the fire report? Any other questions on any of the reports as we are in the report section? Calumet County Sheriff Department, you've seen the report. Is there any questions that you have on that?
yes, Mr. President, a question on the sheriff department report.
One second.
And Joe, come up here. Lieutenant Aaron.
So, my question is around the speeds in the village. And what kind of strategies can we employ? I did see in your report, Lieutenant, I appreciate it. You looked into some of those comments, that were associated in a couple of Facebook groups. And it also appears that I think there might be some different behavior that happens with the temporary sign where the temporary sign gets people to really slow down because they see it and it's new and it's there versus our permanent signs. Once they're there for a while, people, or at least a lot of people are ignoring them. They're still valuable to be there because they collect data. I'm not sure, Chad, have you shared this with Lieutenant?
I did.
Okay, so village manager had one of the employees pull data for the past year, so it is a wider span, and I understand going forward, I believe you're gonna have this pulled more frequently, Chad, or sheriff's department, so we can look at trends of, is it spring, summer, that kind of thing. But I'm looking at this report, and I know you can't be everywhere, anywhere all the time, and that's where strategy around really trying to get people to slow down here. Why I'm asking this is gonna go through these here, and I'll try to make this quickly, but it's important. So looking at Handle Drive, which is a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, there was 325 cars going over 20 miles an hour, 41 to 45. You've got 60 cars, 15 over, and then it starts going down where you got a couple stragglers, but I know being here at the right time would be almost impossible probably, but I mean, there's cars going 80, some stragglers down Handle Drive. We've got Midway.
So you have one car doing between 86 and 90.
Right, so
that's over at 377.
Right, so the odds of being there are pretty slim. I get that, but I'm just. It's more that 10 or more over here. If you look at more than 10 over, you've got, and Handle's not the worst offender. So as far as that goes, Midway eastbound.
So, well, we're talking Handle here. So at 10 miles per hour over the speed limit or less, that's 97.4% of the vehicles are traveling within 10 miles above the speed limit, which is illegal. But you're only getting 2.3%. Well, a little bit more than that. My math's right here, but so still a little over 2% that are more than 10 miles over the speed limit.
Yeah, I understand that it percentage wise, it's a small percent. Some of these are bigger percents. We'll get
Correct. There's a couple roads that are worse than.
right, and I realize that percentage wise, it's a small percentage, but I'm relaying feedback from the community that something's got to change because even though it's a small percentage, this small percentage is drastically impacting the residents' quality of life. And I realize that it felt like this in your report that kind of the complaints were felt as unfounded, but people felt passionate enough about it that there was dozens and dozens of comments. I can tell you when I was getting my signatures for re-election this past time, that was the number one complaint from people is the traffic noise, from the speed of the cars, and they're afraid of their children being. And so we need to somehow have again, I don't want us to be a Rosendale, but there's got to be something from, and I'm asking you guys as the sheriff's department experts, of public campaigns, visibility, maybe more tickets have to be written so there's so many warnings, something about like, okay, if you're 10 or under, whatever, right? I mean, you got to give someone, we're not trying to say, not trying to be a Rosendale, but to me, if you're going over 10 or more in a local residential street, that's a problem. And all it takes is one child to get hit. Well, again, you're going to have some, I get it, but it's just, it's that philosophy of driving more carefully on our residential streets. There are some that are worse here. So maybe I'll highlight a couple of their, if you want to comment back, go ahead, if you want to go over a couple of their ones first, but. Handle Bay was a bad choice to start with, just because it is a small percentage. Oh, because if I look at Noe Road here, or Midway Road, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go to Midway Road. Again, they're gonna be smaller percentages, but we've got by the park, I'm just gonna combine east and westbound together here. Then that's a 35 by Doorway Park there. And you have about 11,000 cars that were going between 10 and 15 over. And then you had, let's see here. Well, as you get up to 20 over, 51 to 55 by the park where there's kids playing, we had 1,200 cars. More than 20 over, 56 to 60, couple hundred cars. When you get up here, I mean, there's people going 70 miles an hour, 75 miles an hour too by the park and stuff. I mean, that's just unacceptable.
Those speeds are ridiculous. There's no reason somebody should be going that fast, especially near a park. However, with these numbers over a 377-day period, if you're looking at speeds that are 10 or more above the speed limit for both directions, that comes out to 35.5 violators per day, which on average is 1.48 per hour. Now, of course, you're going to have more in the afternoon, more in the morning. But I wasn't as surprised with Midway Road as I was with Noe and North Cool.
Yeah, so maybe, so Mile Long's got a smaller trend, and also for sake of time today, let's get Mile Long. So yeah, maybe we jump into Noe. And I know there's neighbors on Noe that have frequently complained, and I know there's neighbors on Coop that have frequently complained. On Noe, especially here, that's 25 there. 10 to 15 over, 23,000 cars. So now we're talking a much, exactly, we're talking a much larger percentage here. And then you've got 41 to 45, which would be up to 16 to 20 over, you got another 2,700. 46 to 50, so it's 20 to 25 over at 300. And then you got 25 over about 60, and then it goes down here into small numbers here. Peak speed at 75 and a 25 down. No, that's pretty fast in that stretch. A couple cars, like I said, that'd be odds of catching them, but there is a huge, in my opinion, there when you've got 23,000 cars going more than 10 over and a 25. I mean, I guess what I'm getting at here, and I'm just going to lump this for speed of time tonight here. We've got Coop as well. You've got, that's a 35 where this is at on Coop, and between 10 and 15 over, 39,000 cars. And then 51 to 55, so that's 15 to 20 over, another 8,000 cars, and you have more. And I guess what I'm getting at here, if we're going to tolerate this in our community, then why do we have a speed limit sign out? It is really how I feel about this, because we're not enforcing stuff. We're really not. People are blatantly ignoring these signs, and they ignore them because they know they can get by with it.
All right. So looking at Noe Road and North Coop, I guess I wasn't surprised by the numbers, which is part of the reason why effective last month, we started working on traffic focus areas, where we're going to have 2 or 3 areas or things we're going to be focusing on for traffic or extra patrol in the community. Last month, we worked on North Coop Road, and one of our goals for patrol this year is to reduce crashes on KK. It's an area where there's a large number of crashes in our community. So we had those 2 focus areas for the month of March. For the month of April, we also focused on a section of KK, Noe and Midway, and then Lake Park Road. With these reports from the signs, which I had asked when these were set up to be present, but I wasn't able to get the information until just recently. But with this new information, we're again going to be focusing on North Coop Road. We're also going to be working on that section of Noe down by Cliff Drive and Shepherd. Working on the speed down in that area. So when we receive a complaint, like on Hosel, where it's unfounded, we can't ignore it. However, we're not going to put all our eggs in that basket. Yes, there needs to be patrol in those areas, but how much resources do you put in that area when there isn't a speed problem? It's a perceived problem by the citizens. And that was verified by officers running radar, the speed board, observations from other citizens in the community. We're testing a program, Urban SDK, which takes aggregate data from vehicles, like OnStar, GPS systems, and shows the speeds on the roads. So we're using some of that data as well. Now, as far as speeding in the village, I pulled some data from the state as far as crash reports, and I took 2014 versus the last 1, 3, and 5 years. And in the county, speed-related crashes versus 1 year were up 42%, 31% over 3 years, and 24% over 5 years. For the village, speed-related crashes are down 4% over 1 year, 8% over 3 years, and 10% over 5 years. So with the resources that we have, the other calls we handle, we're trying to enforce the traffic laws. We're doing what we can. We're also handling other complaints. I can talk about 3 domestics that we had over the last 2 weeks that took several hours of several officers. We're handling those calls as well.
I guess part of what I'm trying to understand, and this is food for thought, and especially, I know we have later in this agenda to talk about adding a supervisor position and significantly increasing our law enforcement expenses, even over and above the $1 million we spend now roughly. That we certainly do need to pay some attention to our county and state highways that run through the village, because I understand that it's been looked at by the attorney, so I understand this. There are jurisdiction now, thanks for being a village. And there's certainly residents that live along there and deserve some attention as well. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be doing some things there. But I guess I just find it a little disturbing that we're focusing on KK. We've got roads like Noe and Coop, for example. And that if KK needs attention too, perhaps Calumet County needs to give Harrison back some of the $6 million a year that we pay in property taxes and send a county deputy up here to help do some special enforcement at County KK then, or County N, or whatever else. And this should, if part of the reason why we contract with Calumet County is for it to be a collaboration. And I just don't feel very collaborative right now. Is what I'm getting. That we need to make this a partnership then. And the county needs to help us out some more here and look at where, because of, we are the largest property taxpayer to the county. And because we're the largest taxpayer to the county, there should be some assistance additional that can be given there. And I just also think that there's some messaging here. I understand you deal with a lot of calls, and I understand, and this is, I'm not picking on the officers, I want to make that very clear. I appreciate all the officers, I interact with them on fire calls and stuff as well, they're all very professional, pleasant, knowledgeable. I realize there's only so much time that they have. But there's some philosophy here that I believe needs to change. We still are having warnings written for large, we've got warnings here. I mean, 16 to 19 over on Gina Drive, and they got a warning. Like, how tolerable are we gonna be? I'll close with that. How tolerable are we really gonna be? And if we think we're gonna be this tolerable, then why are the signs? Maybe the speed limits are wrong. I don't know. Why are the signs the way they are? And I'll close with that. So thank you. If you got to come back, that's fine, but that's my conjecture tonight.
Tammy, you had a question?
I don't know if the public's allowed to speak during our parts of your format. So I don't think some trustee or broadcaster statements are fair to the sheriff's department, because the reality is we have a community that is the size of a city, and you are contracting with a county sheriff's department to provide police services, and you're expecting them to provide police services at the level of full-time police department. They're not. They're a contracted service that is still responsible for the county as a whole, and are tasked with prioritizing their calls based on need. And all day long, a domestic violence situation or a mental health crisis or things of that nature are going to trump a speeding ticket. It is just the reality of what they're tasked with. You have neighboring communities that are similar size to us in population, and they have full-time police departments with much more staff than we are allotted for our similar population. So I think you're comparing apples to oranges. And I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't have speed enforcement in those areas, but you're also talking about residential streets. Those are main thoroughfares. Yes, people live on them, but Noe Road, Midway, those are main thoroughfares through our village. They are not small, quiet cul-de-sacs. I live over by Colesville, and I will tell you, I walked my dog down the middle of the street because parts of the street don't have sidewalk, and I've never had an issue of someone speeding past me, and I've lived over there for 6 years. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but I've seen, and like I said, I live in that area. I've seen regular, significant police presence, at least in my part of the village, since I moved here 6 years ago. And I think you have valid concerns, and I don't mean to say you don't, but I don't think it's fair to hold the sheriff's department to the standard of a full-time police department, because that's not what we have, because that's not what we're paying for. We are paying to contract with them for a set amount of services, and unfortunately, they're tasked with prioritizing what they have time to respond to, and they have to prioritize immediate danger and safety over 10 miles over the speed limit. And it's unfortunate, but it's a reality. If we want the protection of a full-time police department, then we need to do a study, and if we are at a point of growth where we need a full-time police department. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I just don't think it's fair to hold them to the standard of a full-time police department when they are a contracted service, and they are responsible for County K and County N and all of those things, because they are still deputized sheriff's deputies.
So I went comment them, but I don't. So I definitely understand and agree. Obviously, those other calls, other things, definitely you got to prioritize if there's a more urgent situation. That is correct. That's part of why I'm asking a question though, on what is the strategy and what do we need to do differently? Because actually, the sheriff's department is contracted. We have substantially upped our contract. We recently signed a new contract actually, where the sheriff's department is our Harrison law enforcement. They are Village of Harrison law enforcement, yes, through the sheriff's department, but that is why the actual cars themselves are owned by the village of Harrison. That's why you see the newest one that came actually has much more apparent Village of Harrison patrol, because that is our Harrison law enforcement. And if we need to do some things differently, then that needs to be run forward. And especially with the fact of looking to hire and add more on, we need to make sure that we're gonna have what the people are expecting, is all I'm saying.
Another thing I wanted to point out here is with one of these domestics. Deputy, this would have been a domestic on April 13th. Deputy Manser, who is a Harrison deputy, was on the incident for 3.5 hours. Deputy Krieger was on there for an hour and a half. Deputy Nelson, who is not a Harrison deputy, who is a county deputy, assisted for 2.5 hours. Sergeant Hader was on the incident for an hour and a half. I'm sorry, an hour assisting. And the other two have similar time frames.
All I encourage is I think we've got to figure out a strategy to handle. Obviously, the more priority calls that come in, but all I can say is the community is really concerned about the speeding on our streets as well. Obviously, the other safety things, obviously trump, and people care about their safety that way as well. I mean, that's obvious. But they also are just tired of some of the speeding. I mean, there's residents in the audience here that I know I've spoken several times to and stuff about tired of speeding on their streets and not being able to enjoy their backyard, for example. So thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Village manager report, is there any comments on the village manager report?
No, nothing different than what published by Air. As you know, the discussion around speed is a bunch and foremost on us, and so we're going to explore some additional speed meter boards, purchasing them and basing them, and so we get additional data. And we'll bring that back to the road when we know.
Okay, thank you. Finance director / treasurer report, any questions or comments on? Starts and trails, any comments? Public Works, Engineering, any comment? The clerk report?
Just, I just wanted to bring to attention the Board of Review dates at the bottom. So May 27th, we will have the initial Board of Review, which is just to open the meeting. And then make a motion to adjourn because the assessment role will not be concluded at that time. And then the actual Board of Review meeting with the hearings will be August 13th, 2025. And
August
so,
what?
say that again?
August what?
August 13th, Wednesday, August 13th, 2025 at 10:30 in the morning. So we will need 3 volunteers from the trustees. Well, that would be able to make that, and one of them will need to complete the training. So at some point, if 3 people could volunteer, and then we'll appoint those at the next May 27th.
Well, we give the board a month to
Think about it, yes.
go through their schedule and come back next
Yeah, I
month.
didn't expect an answer now. That's why I wanted to bring it to your attention.
Okay.
Thank you for the time.
Just to count on the board of review, I guess depends on schedule. I go down and see us move the board of review to in the evening. But
Yeah,
That's kind of on the assessor being available.
the assessor, it was discussed because that has been a request before. I was told that it is not a good idea during a market adjustment or a reval year to do an evening because you may be having 8 to 10 hours of Board of Review hearings. And so if you're going to start at 4 p.m. and you do it for 8 hours, you're now into the middle of the night. So he said, if it's just a maintenance year where 9 times out of 10, no one has any complaints about their assessment or questions, that would be fine. He strongly recommended it not be done this year.
Okay, Harrison Utilities. Brandon, anything to add to your report? Any comments from the board? No. Okay. Next up, we have the approval of the bills and claims for March 2025. Gonna need a motion in a second.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills and claims for March 25 as printed and circulated. I'll second it.
Any discussion?
I thought I had a question on one, but then that was already. Oh, I did, page 86. There's an amount paid out for Egg Left Trail feasibility study. Is there revenue coming back in to offset that then?
Yeah, there's a DOT grant and a community foundation grant that was used, you know, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, please vote your ballot.
Sorry, one more. Page 92, there was stormwater fee for Turnkey Business Park. You know what that was about?
I
Page 92.
That was a refund, the property was incorrectly charged stormwater fees on the tax bill. The property is not, commercial yet, it's still ag land, and he was able to prove that he had farmed it or had leased it for county.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that was refunded.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, please vote your ballot. All right, motion passes. Next up, we are moving item T from new business up. I'm gonna need staff to read the motion or the agenda item motion.
Tell me when we'll do the job. So item 12T is ordinance B 2508, amending chapter 2, section 1, 2, 3, parents B, C, and E of the planning commission. And so the question is, does the board wish to make the changes to the planning commission that were proposed? How much more do you want me?
Nope, that's fine.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance B 2508, amending municipal code chapter 2, section 1, 2, 3, sub B, C, and E as presented in the packet. Oh, sorry.
Discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and vote your ballot.
Steve on that?
Julie, was your folder with her?
Yeah. Did you go through that?
See,
I can mark it for you if you tell me. Okay.
I'm getting a visual to the information that it goes to the slide.
All right, looks like the motion passes. Now we will move to 10A. Appointment,
You're going to,
confirmation of appointments to boards and commission. How do we want to handle this? Do we want to put a motion to approve all, or do we need to go one by one, or how do we want to handle it?
It's up to the board how you want to do it, but you're gonna be focusing in on scenario number 2, because that reflects what the ordinance changes that you just approved. So however you want to handle it, if you want to take each committee or each person, that's up to you.
I would like to ask the fire commission to be done separately. Other than that, as far as I'm concerned, it can be done as a group.
So go ahead and make your motion for the fire commission then.
We can't. Fire commission supervising the fire department.
I know that.
So,
So neither of you two can vote.
correct.
I want to abstain.
So Frank or Jolene or Mark,
What's the 10A, which one is it?
This is ten A for confirmation of appointments to the
Yeah.
boards. And so we're looking at the options in the second half of the memo that would allow you more options because the ordinance just passed.
And, and then if I can have a suggestion, if I can, because I know you can't do more than 2 votes on here, so I would recommend if we can to do a voice vote on the fire commissions, so we can vote with our tablets for the rest of it. If possible, seeing you guys already know that me and Mike have to abstain tonight.
I did give out a thing in front of you, trustee Lancaster, to help track. Because the one vote on the system is limiting.
so because the ordinance passed, we go over to second table.
Correct.
So we just need someone to make a motion to approve the fire commission seat, and then the rest of it we can do in one lump sum.
They should be named on the record though.
Yes,
So the motion would be to appoint Robert Streck to the fire commission for the May 2025 through the April 2030 term.
May 1st, 2025.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion on the fire commission to approve Robert Streck for May 1st, 2025 through the April 30th, 2030. He has printed and circulated on the fire commission. Second.
any discussion? Okay, please vote your ballot,
No, we're gonna do a voice vote.
voice vote.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start on that. Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Motion passes.
All right, now the next we can lump together. Or do we want to do them apart? Whatever the board wants to do.
Well, if we did them all together,
No, I'm saying the rest of them.
we couldn't vote on the other ones.
I meant minus the fire commission. So let's just do one by one. It'd be less confusing.
You
Okay.
still should read all the names.
Yes.
I'll make a motion, and we're doing one by one, a motion to appoint. And have the back to the planning commission for the term beginning May 1st, 2025 through April 21st, 2026.
No, second it.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Should we do voice
All
again?
in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up. Need a
I'll make a
motion.
motion to approve, the planning commission citizen seat, Tammy Recital, May 1st, 2025 through April 30th, 2028.
One second.
Discussion? Those in favor, say aye.
Do we need a couple, just to clarify, would it also be as the presiding officer?
Can we make that separately or make it in one?
You can do either.
Okay,
It's,
I'm gonna amend that motion to make Tammy be the presiding officer of the planning commission for the term of May 1st, 2025 to April 30th, 2028.
to include her as.
To include her as the presiding officer. So that's an amendment.
Did you agree with amending your motion?
Yes.
So that's a second. So
What-
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So to complete the floor vote is to put Tammy also as the planning commission. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next up, we have Jim Eppets. Is that his last name? Yes.
You just voted on the amendment. Now you have to vote on the main motion.
We just did.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was writing 6-0 votes. Okay, thank you.
Next up, Jim Eppets. Apets.
I make a motion to appoint Jim Apes to Plan Commission.
I'll second that.
May 1st, 2025 to April 30th, 2028.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next up, Tom Eitenbrook.
I'll make a motion to appoint Tom Heidenbrook to the citizen seat of the Plan Commission, May 1st, 2025 to April 30th, 2026.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Next up, we have Dennis Hirschbacher. Is that how you say your name?
It's actually Hirschbacher.
Hirschbacher?
I'll make a motion to approve Dennis Kirschbacher for the Plan Commission of Citizens seat with a term of May 1st, 2025 to April 30th, 2027.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, we have the weed commissioner. And that's like, you know,
It's not
it's
illegal.
not the cannabis stuff, it's the
Nuisance. It's the nuisance.
yes.
I'll make
Nuisance.
a motion to approve, Commissioner Kaylee Brzezinski for the term of May 1st, 2025 to April 30th, 2026.
I'll second it.
So we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Next up, we have Dan Garber.
Make a motion to approve Dan, zoning board of appeals, motion for Dan Garber, May 1st, 2025 through April 30th, 2028.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Last, we have Craig.
Majewski.
I know he will sit for here.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve, Craig Majewski for the zoning board of appeals with a term of May 1st, 2025 to April 30th, 2028.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, congratulations. We have a full fire commission, planning commission, and zoning board of appeals. Thank you.
If I may just add one comment, there is still one opening on the zoning board of appeals, so we will be recruiting for that position and bringing it back.
Let's see where I'm at here.
There is no old business.
Up, so
So
now
we'll
we're
be on
on
to
to
12, item A.
some reason that was my favorite. Okay, new business, 12A, let's start
Ready?
on.
The item is brought forward by Manager Pelichek for a certificate of payment number 5 to pay Crossroads Business Park in the amount of $43,873.20.
Other than what's in the memo, Chad, do you have anything to add?
No,
Motion to approve. Let's turn it in circulation.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Nat and a second by Jolene. Any discussion?
No.
Okay, go ahead and vote your ballot. Motion passes. Item 12B.
That is also brought by Manager Pelichek. It's a proposal from Context Systems to complete a cybersecurity audit of the village.
Chad, do you have anything to add? What's in the memo?
no, other than I'm not sure that, I don't know if this has ever been done, and since our insurance company is funding. A good portion of it, I think it makes sense for the village to do it. There's also grant funds if we have to make any investments, whatever comes out of this.
Make a motion to approve it in circulating.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion by Matt, second by Mark. Any discussion?
Just one comment, it's a good job in the village manager for finding some grant funds to help do this, because you're right, nobody's moving down, so it's good.
All right. There's no further discussion. Let's go ahead and move to ballot. Motion passes. Next up, 12C.
That is, again, brought to you by, Manager Pelishek and the Fire Chief Gerald Curl to award on consultant to complete the fire department staffing study, intergovernmental cost share model evaluation, and an ambulance service analysis.
It's 12C.
How to do? This is to approve the public administration associates to complete a wage compensation study for $16,670.
Under questions, there has been some questions if this was a budgeted item. It was budgeted in the village manager budget for $10,000. Russ, pulled that number. I'm not sure where that number came from. Obviously it's 6,000 more, so the difference would come from the contingency item. There was also some questions of the last time this was done. It was done in 2020, 2021. This probably won't be implemented until 2026, so they recommend doing this every 5 years just to make sure that we're competitive with ourselves.
I make a motion for it to be circulated. And second.
So we have a motion by Mike and a second by Frank. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, go ahead and vote your ballot.
Mine go through or not?
Okay, motion passes.
Now we'll go to section 12, item D, brought to you by the fire chief and the village manager to award a consultant to complete the fire department staffing study, intergovernmental cost share module evaluation, and an ambulance service analysis.
Chief, do you wanna go ahead and maybe add to the discussion or Chad?
I can take it. So the budget for 2025 included 35,000 for this. That was really just to look at the fire department to determine what triggers when we're gonna go to more of a peer department. We added two components to it after that fact. One was looking at the intergovernmental cost share that the model we have in place today for how we charge the village of Sherwood and the town of Woodville for services. So we would like them to analyze that to see if what we're doing makes sense or if there's other ways to make sure that we're recouping the costs appropriately. The last piece of it is to look at the ambulance service. Now today we get service from Gold Cross. There has been talk about Gold Cross charging us for services. Today they are free. And my feeling is if we're gonna hire somebody to look at those other two services, we should get at least a benchmark for what ambulance service might cost in the village in case Gold Cross comes to us with a number, we have something to compare to. So it's kind of a fairly large study for those three components. It could take over a 2-year period to get this done. So this could hit 2 budgets if we need to. It was originally budgeted for 35,000. The recommendation is to move forward with McMahon at 59,100. The other company, which was Fitch and Associates, had some reimbursable expenses that we weren't sure about that could drive up the cost. And given that McMahon is local and their project manager was a former fire rescue employee and understands the department, we thought it made sense to work with them to kind of walk through and kind of give us good information on how to make decisions for the future.
Okay, any discussion from the board?
And I'd like to make a motion then to award McMahon for $59,100 to contract to complete the fire department staffing study and intergovernmental cost share model evaluation and ambulance service analysis as printed and circulated.
1 second.
We got a motion by Mark and a second by Frank. If no further discussion, go ahead and vote your ballot.
Actually, I do have.
Okay, go ahead.
So just for clarification, I want to confirm, and this is more for the public as well, that might have questions on this later. The intergovernmental cost sharing is obviously probably the most heavy priority in this. Making sure that we're being fair with our tax dollars between our partners in Woodville and Sherwood. And then the ambulance piece probably we've heard some things and just making sure we're prepared if things are going to have to change there. And then studying the triggers for full time. It doesn't mean we're looking at one full time wrong. You're just trying to be prepared. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
One of the driving forces with the ambulance piece, one of the neighboring communities. They were kind of caught off guard where they were very similar to us in the village of Harrison. And at the last moment, they were told that they were to be charged per capita. And with the rate our population is going and the per capita rates that I have been able to figure out what they were for some neighboring communities, we are potentially talking, and I don't want to scare anybody, but we're talking millions of dollars. So we want to be ready in case. And the facility that we have designed, we can be ready if needed. But we want to have some facts and we want to be prepared, and that's why that piece was that nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone vote their ballot? Oh, motion passes. Next up, we have item 12E.
Which is from the village manager to approve a dead ash tree removal in the Darboy Park Forest. By contracting with Loney's Tree Service in the amount of $26,500.
Anything outside the memo you want to mention, Chad? Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve a little bit of loans, for $26,500, $26,500 is printed and circulated.
I'll second.
so we got a motion by Jolene and a second by Mike. Any discussion?
Besides that, we have, if you take a walk down by Darboy Community Park in the woods there's several really large oak trees that have been falling down over for 6 months. We asked staff last fall if maybe we could get some of that cleaned up, but they're still down, and a lot of kids are playing and making forts in those large fallen trees now in the woods in there, which is considered a safety hazard. So just several with, if, I know we can't include it in this motion here, but we can have staff working with our DPW group on cleaning those several trees up with our vehicles that we have available here the next couple of weeks. That'd be greatly appreciated for park safety.
I think those are included in this. Well, so
Okay.
we'll be working with.
I just want to make sure of those.
Cause they'll have a chipper and they'll take care of it.
No, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. Go ahead and vote your ballot.
Trustee Bowman, Hanson. Thank you.
All right, motion passes. Next up is 12F.
That is brought to you by the village manager to approve the village trustee handbook that's presented.
I guess my only comment is when we have the other ordinances approved, I'm thinking the ethics ordinance next month. And then the comprehensive plan, is that gonna be amended to include those items?
There is some general ethics stuff in here, but yes, they could be added to it at that time.
Okay. So if we make a motion, I would like the motion to have an amendment after someone makes a motion in a second to have that trustee handbook revised in a future date to include the new comprehensive plan and any updates from the ethics ordinance that we are going to have presented next month.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion in for the approval of the village trustee handbook to include the ethics ordinance, amended revised ethics ordinance along with a new 2025 comprehensive plan for Village of Harrison as printed and circulated.
So if I could just ask, there is an exhibit that would be added for the future land use map, which I think is maybe what you're looking for versus the whole plan.
Yeah, you don't want to add the whole plan, but the
Future
land.
land use map when it's a.
Should we open a second?
I'll second it. So we had a motion by Mark and a second by Mike. Any discussion? All right, go ahead and vote your ballot. All right, motion passes. Next up, 12G.
The village manager is bringing forward a request to approve the social networking policy for the village of Harrison that was created.
We've read what's in your packet. Chad, do you have anything to add?
No.
I'll make a motion then to approve a social networking policy for the village of Harrison, as printed and circulated.
I'll second it.
Got a motion by Jolene and a second by Mike. Any discussion? Okay, if not, go ahead and vote your ballot.
Thank you, this is not letting me refresh.
Try it one more time. I think you're just too fast.
It could be.
All right, 12H.
Manager Pelishek is bringing forward a request to review the new home construction escrow policy and approve it if the board so chooses.
Make a motion to approve as printed and circulated.
I'll second it.
Got a motion by
Trustee Lancaster.
Matt and a second by Mark. Chad, do you have something to add?
Yeah, just that, so this has been in play for a long time, these two escrows, this is nothing new. However, it's never been defined as to what could be charged against it. So we want to be upfront and clear with homeowners and builders to say these are the items that could be billed against it if they fail to follow through. So this will all go with all the new home permits so that if we're being transparent over what the policy is. But if there is issues, at least the village has something to fall back on to correct these issues.
Any discussion? Okay, go ahead and vote your ballot. All right, the motion passes. Next item, item 12I.
There's a request to have a 30-day review process for all new developments. To approve that process.
Make a motion to approve the printed and circulated.
I'll second it.
So we got a motion by Matt and a second by Mike. Any discussion?
Mr. President, the only question is I can absolutely support this, but I just want to get a little bit of a feel for what does the subjective input from residents, how will we handle that?
Chad, do you want to add to that? Answer that question?
I mean, we're gonna have to wade through those comments. We'll share them with both the commission, the planning commission and the board. I think if there's things that, little things that need to be addressed, we can kind of handle that. I don't have a clear answer for you because I don't know what the nature of these comments are gonna be, but it's more of a public awareness over what's coming. And then, not that it's gonna be made and, one person is against it, the board probably isn't gonna decide, to not do it. It's just that there may be some things that we didn't think about as staff that need to be addressed, and it'll give us some options to kind of include those as future conditions.
Okay, the only other thing I'd like to just have under consideration for something like this as we move forward is, I don't know if geographically it makes sense to have, so for example, if a new subdivision is going in and somebody lives way on the other side of town, I don't know if their comments on that subdivision should be as impactful as somebody that's, within the neighborhood. So I'm not making a recommendation either way. I'm just saying something I think we should consider when we start getting, if we start getting feedback on this.
I believe you have a request or information to be sent and do they put their address in? I think so. So obviously when they fill out that form online and get submitted, that is something to consider.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? No. All right, go ahead and vote your ballot then. All right, motion passes. Well, Jay,
Okay, this is to have a follow-up discussion on the installation of ditch liners on the Mountain Ash Lane in the Cottonwood Estates subdivision. I do believe you had public comments earlier and the gentleman had asked if he could speak at this time.
so Chad might wanna lead this discussion.
Sure. So the last time the board held this discussion for more information, what the village staff did was looked at it and went out and found. We tried to get a couple of estimates. We were not successful getting anybody besides Scott Lamers to submit a cost of $11,600 to install the ditch liners. Jeff has informed me that we do have the old ditch liners in storage from other projects that the village would provide to this, so there would be no cost to the homeowners other than the installation costs. If the board so chooses to do that, rough estimate on the size, the lots vary, but the size of an average lot out there based on $30 a square feet, which is on the $30 a linear foot, which is on the estimate, comes to about 2,700 or so per property owner. The thought of the staff was that we would bill for these services before the village did it, and then those that didn't pay, and talking if you could be added to the tax rolls if needed to be, but at least we would have the funding right front before we would deploy the contractor to do the work. So that's the recommendation at this time.
So it looks like you're just asking, do we support the recommendation? Then what's the next step?
If you approve the recommendation for the $11,600, the village would contract with the property owner, we would bill out the homeowners, and then when we collected the fees, we would allow the contractor to proceed with the work. There was a question before the meeting from one of the property owners, if they could do the installation themselves. I would recommend against that because the contractor will be installing them per shooting grades and making sure that they're being put in properly. Where versus a homeowner may not have that technology to make sure that that's in place. So I would caution against I think having a contractor take responsibility for the work. If there is issues in the future, then we come back and deal with them versus having property owners do their individual properties. So that's the decision.
All right, I'm gonna leave the discussion to the board. Go ahead.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. First of all, when we find out, because I know there's the ditch liners adjacent to these 6 properties, do we find out did the homeowners pay for those or the village? Do we know?
We looked, I'm not sure. I believe that the village may have paid for them installed,
Okay.
but it was a long time ago.
Sure. And then even if we would have the homeowners pay for some of this, just thinking about a situation that we had to go through with, the village got themselves through a court case regarding some assessments in a while back. Wouldn't we have to go through a formal assessment process before we could build these properties on a tax bill? I don't think we can just put this on taxes without, can we?
We can't answer that.
The issue is that it would not be an assessment. This is the village acting as the contractor and dividing the bill. So these people are choosing to have it done and the bill is getting divided. The village is just being the middleman for that. The difference between that and a special assessment is where the village is similar. But we're not doing it as an assessment on the tax roll. What we're doing is we are recouping funds owed to the village for an unpaid bill. So they would be getting invoiced versus an assessment for this work.
I guess what I'm getting at then is where is the agreements or whatever where if someone gets a bit, because it's technically it's in the village right away, so it's not on their property, it's front of their houses, but it is technically village right away. So if someone would get that bill and not want to pay that bill, I guess I'm just trying to, from a due process standpoint here. And we've heard one set of public comments tonight, I think they're may want to speak as well, so I want to make sure he gets an opportunity as well if he'd like to. Is You know, if someone doesn't have the funds or doesn't choose to have the funds in their budget to do this, I hate to have someone be surprised, and I think if the 6 property owners aren't in agreement here. You know, I just don't wanna have a push and pull with the village here, and I also don't wanna put neighbors against neighbors, so I guess that's getting.
Refer to the attorney as far as whether or not what happens if one of the 6 do not want to do it.
Yeah, I don't have the answer.
My understanding is that if they were all in agreement, the village could work with the contractor and divide the bill up and invoice the resident or the homeowner. And then if the invoice was not paid, it's the invoice that I would be assessing on their tax
So
bill.
they would be signing something in advance saying they agree to it, I guess, is what I'm getting at, okay. And then my last question for the village engineer. Based on the comments we heard tonight, and maybe last year was a wet, I mean, there was a time last year when it was wet and it dried up later in the year and. What's your professional opinion on how our construction project may have contributed to this issue?
Part of the problem with the subdivision prior to the work being done is it was a lot of culverts that were improperly set, ditches were filled in. So the project was resetting the culverts to provide positive drainage to the south end of the subdivision. So in this particular area, there might have been culverts upstream that were improperly set, holding the water back. Once they were reset, now that water is continuing to go to the south. These areas are wetter now because all these upstream properties are draining through this area.
Okay, so then this could, or not, we didn't do anything wrong, I guess I'll just for the record be clear of that. But correcting other drainage issues in this area may have added water to the ditches where there was not before.
Part of the problem is the sump pumps upstream of this area run continuously. And now that the culverts are cleaned out, reset, the ditches are cleaned out, now that water is draining to the south. And Mountain Ash is just that next step to get down to the south end of the subdivision of Manitowoc.
Okay, so. Am I able to make a motion?
I think they're looking for a recommendation, right?
It says motion in here.
Yep.
I just, can I do that now?
Before you make a motion, I just want to put on the table, I mean, it's been the point of the residents in that neighborhood that the village is responsible now, whether we are or we're not, I'm not sure. And that, you know, we should be covering the whole cost. If the board would choose for the board, for us to cover the cost, we could take it out of stormwater impact fees, that the stormwater utility fees that we already have on hand, if we believe that we should be paying for it. So I guess there's a couple, you know, there's 2 options, whether we want to have them pay us and hope that they all pay and go through that process, or if the village wanted to cover this, like, that's gonna be up to the board, but I want to give you the options.
So. Based on the information this evening, and maybe this will help the discussion, and this might help the residents' question here as well. Based on the fact that our other project potentially added more water here. Based on the fact that we are changing processes going forward for our projects this year, so there are some lessons learned here. So I'm just outlining a couple of things here, because by the motion I'm gonna make here, by no means am I meaning to set any kind of precedent with this, is what I'm saying here. So there's multiple mitigating circumstances I feel here. So those 2, and the fact that we believe the village may most likely pay for the ditch liners that are in installation adjacent to this, and trying to treat people fairly this way. I'm actually gonna make a motion that the village do this for the $11,760 and take the funds out of the stormwater budget and not charge the homeowners.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Matt and a second by Jolene.
And I don't know if the resident, I just want to make sure he gets a chance if he had any comments around that or satisfies the concern or not.
I'm a salesman, you learn to never hold me sell. It happens.
Just, I would like to make one point of clarification, and I would just say, you know, Scott. In the vision of being more transparent and community involvement, I think this really is a great example of that in terms of this issue came forward, you know, in fall of 2023. We've been in communication with the village in the last 2 months. Chad has facilitated a couple of meetings with my plan and others, right? We've had some really, really good dialogue. Just to clarify one point that was made though, that as I understood it. When they reset the culverts. The result is a slope in those ditches of less than 1%. It's 1/2 of 1%, 6 inches for every 100-foot drop. That is the Wisconsin DOT minimum for a ditch. Not only that, but we are on top of the water table and some homes are actually below the water table. So as was stated, our sump pumps run continuously, but our ditches have turned into a swamp as a result of less slope. It doesn't take anything to back it up. Before, I believe we had more slope. I think we were closer to the 1%, which is desirable. So I'm not gonna argue whether the project, the resurfacing and the resetting of the culverts caused the problem or not. We believe it did, just because of what we have witnessed over living there 26 years. We know what functioning this ditch works like, and we don't have that. We're really stuck. And I'm glad you guys have some empathy on us, because we don't want to cause rifts with our neighbors. We have worked together as a neighborhood to understand the problem truly and hear from the village, and their recommendation is the ditch bans. And so I hope that your motion gets seconded, and I appreciate you taking that.
So we have a motion and a second, Matt and Jolene. Any other discussion? All right, if no other discussion, go ahead and vote your ballot. Okay, motion passes. Next up, 12K.
Thank you. Yes,
I think also
everyone.
Mr. President. One good comment too. I want to thank you guys for being involved and being open to having dialogue too. So it helps on all.
This has been very, very positive all the way around. And
Okay, sorry, we're gonna keep moving on.
Yeah.
Okay,
Item 12K is presented by the village manager. It's a preliminary plot for Forest Ridge subdivision, which is 65 lots in total. And located at intersections, State Highway 114 and North Shore Road.
This item will lay over the 30-day review period and be adopted in the May or be brought up for consideration on the bill.
so this is just an FYI, this is the process that the new subdivision has been announced. So from this point on, it'll be announced via on our website and on social media. People will be able to provide their comments for the new subdivision. And then that way, people can prepare for the next set of meetings, which is the planning commission in May, and then followed by the board meeting. So this is just an opportunity for the public to have an opportunity to at least reach out to the staff or the planning commission or the board members as far as any issues that they have with a new subdivision.
Mr. President, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
This new process. As a board member, is this also an opportunity where we have a chance, if there is any comments that he had that would
Yes,
forward that the plan commission would have that
I
information?
would
as well?
encourage you to submit those to staff so that we can address them.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item 12I, or
We didn't make a motion, don't we?
No, it
No.
was just brought to the attention.
okay. Next up is 12I, or is it L?
Okay, Al,
Oh, 12L, I'm sorry.
this is from the Harrison Utilities Office Manager, Barlow. It's the final acceptance of the Harrison Utilities of the water and sanitary sewer infrastructure in the Woodland Lakes Cottage subdivision, which is located in the city of Menasha.
Okay, you have anything to add to this?
It's kind of weird. Sorry, Brandon. It's kind of weird because Harrison Utilities provides service to Menasha residents besides Harrison residents. So this happens to be a city of Menasha. From the old days when it was really sanitary district, but in the past, the board has never approved the infrastructure like we've approved streets and other subdivisions. So based on recommendations from Attorney Les Meisel, it's recommended to have reporting formal actions.
Yeah.
The staff is on board with it, we would be with for formal.
Sure. Looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the final acceptance of water and sanitary sewer infrastructure in the Woodland Lakes Cottage subdivision in the city of Gratiot.
I'll second.
It's got a motion by Jolene and a second by Mike. Any discussion? If not, go ahead and vote your ballot. Okay, motion passes. Next up, 12L.
This would be the review and approval on the final conceptual plan for playground infrastructure at Renwood Park.
Chad, do you have anything to add with what's in the memo? Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve, the final conceptual plan for playground infrastructure at Runyon Park with the budget of 350,000, 300,000 developer contribution and 50,000 from TID for.
I'll second.
so we got a motion by Matt and a second by Jolene. Any other discussion? Matt?
Just a comment, I want to thank staff for working on this. I'm very excited to see us have an inclusive playground. The community been really wanting us and asking for an inclusive playground in the village, so great work.
Okay. No further discussion. Go ahead and vote your ballot. Okay, motion passes. Next up, 12N.
Just scroll too far. Thank you. The next item is to review and approve the proposal for a floor plan for the new shelter at Farmers Field Park.
Make a motion to approve the conceptual floor plan for the building, working within the proposed budget of approximately $500,000 to be sourced from parking impact fees.
No second.
So we got a motion by Matt and a second by Mike. Any discussion?
Just a public clarification, that 500,000 is to buy materials. Kimberly School District, the high school will be building in, so the labor will be for.
And that's a wonderful partnership, so thank you for all your work on that. And we thank the Kimberly School District as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and the other thing is it got to be a little bit bigger than what we had originally budgeted for. The idea is, I'm thinking long term, because I think ultimately this room is gonna have to become part of the village operations offices. So we wanted to be able to provide a place for rentals year round for the community. And so since we're moving forward and we've got a partner willing to build it, it seemed like it made sense to make it a little bit larger to include a rentable space for year round parties.
Okay, any other discussion? Go ahead and vote your ballot. Okay, motion passes. Next up, 12O, I'm sorry, I don't have a screen in front of me, so I always have to look back here. So if you're always wondering why I gotta look behind me, we had some technical difficulties on our TV screen here.
It's not working. 12O is the request from the Kiwanis Club to close Noe Road for their Touch a Truck event, and that will be on June 25th of 2025.
Motion to approve, the request from the Kiwanis to close the Noe Road for the Darway Community Park Touch a Truck event on June 25th, 2025.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Matt, second by Jolene. Any discussion? If not, go ahead and vote your ballot. The motion passes. Next up, 12P.
This would be a request from it's a street closure permit request for Logan Lane Block Party. They've had this multiple times without any incidents. I did check with one of the officers and he did not see any incidents that were recorded for last year either.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the permit request for Logan Lane, Scottsville Drive Block Party. It's % circulated.
I'll second.
We got a motion by Mark and a second by Mike. Any discussion? If not, go ahead and vote your ballot. Okay, motion passes. Next up, 12Q.
This is a request from a teacher at Woodland School requesting to waive the park rental fees for his class party. This is an end of year party that he's had multiple times.
I'll make a motion to approve waiving the park rental fees for Woodland School's end of year party.
Second.
We got a motion by Jolene and a second by Frank. Any discussion? If not, vote your ballot. Okay, motion carries. Next up is 12R.
This is a request to waive the park rental fees from, by Scout Troop 135. As you see in the memo, they did request 2 different dates. And earlier, we had comment from the public requesting the board consider.
You approve the request for Tuesday, June 10th, waive the fees. And to table the request for more information for Saturday, October 25th.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Matt and we have a second by Mike to approve the first date and then table the second date. Is there any discussion? Can we do that legally by doing that? Splitting those up? Okay. You just want to double check.
You're just tabling one.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, vote your ballot. Okay, motion passes. Next up, 12S.
This is a request for a Class B 6-month license from Harrison Athletic Association. It would also include approving the agent assignment for Becky Motter and authorizing up to 10 operator/bartender licenses. All of these would be at no charge to HAA, which has a way of fostering our relationship and the way they help village with the park. Yeah, they do the program, they do the grass cutting and things like that. So it's been historical. We do not charge them. The board waives the fees for these items.
I'll make a motion to approve granting a 6-month Class B alcohol license to Harrison Athletic Association, confirming Becky Motter as the agent and authorizing the clerk to issue up to 10 operator licenses, all without charges to each.
I'll second.
So we got a motion by Jolene and a second by Mark. Any discussion? If not, go ahead and vote your ballot. Next up, oh, motion passes, sorry. Next up is 12U.
This would be brought to you from the manager Pelishek. It's an ordinance B 2507, amending municipal code section 26-99 regarding the night parking restrictions.
So you'll see in the memo, we did get about 1,025 survey responses, and 70% were in favor of the change, 30% were against. Some of them, I think, didn't understand what we were asking, but overall seems to be support for only having overnight parking November 1st to May 1st.
I like 70% approval. That's a good number to move on, so.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance B 25-7, amending chapter 26, section 26-99, night parking restrictions as presented circulated. I'll second.
So we got a motion by Mark and a second by Frank. Any discussion? Matt?
Thank you. Question for the village manager. I see we got a couple of pauses already, which is great. Do we need to do anything around semis to not park overnight on village streets?
think that's already in the work.
Yeah, it can't, there's no trucking.
No, this, that, on just any of our streets, I mean, we have some streets that are not no trucking. Or
Right,
they
I
still,
think
that
they're,
this won't supersede that, is what I'm getting at.
right.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, vote your ballot. Okay, motion passes. 12B,
This is a resolution V 2025-09. It will amend V 2025-02, which designates the public depository and authorizing withdrawal of municipal funds. Purpose of this is obviously to update our banking information with the change of presidents.
I guess make motion to approve resolution B 2025-09. Amending the resolution of B 2025-02, designating public depository and authorized withdrawal of municipal funds as printed and circulated.
so we got a motion by Mark and a second by Mike. Any discussion? If not, go ahead and vote your ballot. Okay, motion passes. Next up, 12W.
This is a letter of intent from Legacy Hoops LLC for lots number 1 and 2 in the Crossroads Business Park.
Make a motion to approve the letter of intent for Legacy Hoops LLC for lots number 1 and 2 in Crossroads Business Park.
We got a motion by Jolene and a second by Frank. I think is there any discussion or anything, Chad, you want to add to what's in the memo?
No, other than it's a youth basketball facility, and I think it'll be a good addition to the board.
Man,
The only question is, just like addition to the village, is there any kind of conditions around if we need to do that it cannot be put into not for profit, so we don't lose tax revenue on this, being type of, organization? As far as ownership being changed or things like that, if something binding down the road here that us have any property tax revenue off of this?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think maybe if we could amend the motion to include some language just to make sure that it's always taxable and that at least then I can get it in the final offer when it comes forward.
I'll make a motion to amend that we have a clause recorded with the offer indeed that the property must always be a taxable property, it cannot be transferred to a not for profit.
I'll second him.
so we got an amendment motion by Matt and seconded by Mark. We're gonna go ahead and take a roll call vote on this, but first, is there any discussion on that? So we're gonna do a roll call vote on that, so we'll start over here.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. So the amendment to the motion to the amendment is passed.
I should be able to vote on your machine.
Is that?
I should be able to vote on the machine.
Yeah. So now we can vote on the machine. If there's any other discussion, go ahead and vote your ballot. Okay, that item passes. Next up, we have 12X. How many more items are there? Gee.
We'll go to FF. All right, next item is to acceptance of an offer to purchase lot number 6 in the Harrison Commerce Park from Scott DeWitt for his assigned LLC.
But they can make a motion for acceptance of the vacant land offer to purchase lot 6. in Harrison Commerce Park. Scott DeWitt, printed and circulated.
We got a motion by Mark and a second by Jolene. Any discussion? If none, go ahead and vote your ballot. Motion passes. Next up is 12Y.
This is to approve the vacant offer to purchase from E-Home LLC for lots 4 and 11 in the Crossroads Business Park.
Make a motion to approve the vacant land offer to purchase with E Homes LLC to purchase lots 4 and 11 in Crossroads Business Park.
Second. So we got a motion by Jolene and a second by Frank. Any discussion? Ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. President. So I do have some concerns about this offer. Because it's really vague on what they're trying to do when they say multiple associated businesses. There's really no value information on the total taxable value and things that are being generated. And I did look up this LLC and associated agent, and they have about almost a full page here of businesses that they've had, and all but 2 are dissolved or no longer in standing. So I have a question on about more details here, and knowing this is almost full, I have a really hard time supporting purchasing of 2 parcels that are not contiguous either. So it's not like they're just trying to do something larger than one parcel allows. And you know, there's some speculative development happening here, and things, who knows? And I just think we would be remiss to approve both of these without more information. I don't know, Chad, what your thoughts on it?
So Matt has shown me what he found. I think it's legit. I guess what I'm thinking is, if the board would table this, we can bring it back to the next meeting, and I can have that discussion with them to get more information, and maybe if it's just one lot, have them pick which lot it is and then have them amend their offer.
So we'll have to rescind the motion, or we could vote on it and just deny it and they can come back next month, right?
There's a waiting period before you can bring back a motion. So
Unless someone from the winning side brings it back. Right? So we do it either way. So I'm fine with whatever you want to do.
I'm willing to rescind the motion.
Okay, so Jolene, and the second was by Frank. Okay,
Rescind it.
you have to table it. Yeah, do we have to table? We don't have to vote to table it, do we?
No, I don't think so.
No action taken.
Okay. Right, next up is 12Z.
Okay, this is to award the Department of Public Works addition and expansion project to Bayland Buildings for the amount of $1,790,745.
All I would say on this one is, our budget was originally 3 million, and our budget was 2.6 million. And this still came in 800,000 less than budget, so kudos to Nick Mann and the team for a great set of bids, and I think we would be remiss not to move forward on a budget at this price.
I would agree. So I'm gonna need a motion and a second on that.
I make a motion to approve the low bid of $1,790,745 with Bayland Buildings for the DPW garage expansion.
I'll second it. So we got a motion by Jolene and a second by Mike. Any discussion? If not, go ahead and vote your ballot.
Does it work? Sorry, my computer froze.
Okay, motion passes. Next up is 12AA.
This is to award the security and fire systems additions for the DPW expansion project with Tech to ECC for the amount of $21,344.78.
Chad, you have anything to add other than what's in the memo?
No, we just wanted to get this done so we can include it in borrowing for the funds.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrant security and fire system additions of DPW expansion project with Tech for $21,344.78 as printed and circulated.
I'll second. So we got a motion by Mark, second by Mike. Any discussion?
Just one question.
Sure,
Was this included in that budget that you spoke of?
no,
So this is budgeted separately then?
it's not budgeted separately, it's just a project expense because we have door security and fire security through a preferred vendor, so we wouldn't bid that out because we have tech that's our vendor currently, so it's just the added cost of the project.
Okay, any other discussion, Matt?
But you're still, I mean, overall, even if we had this plus the bid we just awarded, we're still under our overall budget.
Yeah, right,
By a lot, right? Okay, I think that's where it is, yeah.
Okay, vote your ballot.
Trustee Field, did yours go through?
Okay.
I'm not seeing your vote. Thank you.
Okay, motion passes. Next up is 12 B.
This is a confidentiality agreement that was requested from Allegheny County for the village to sign. It's in response to the Judicial Privacy Act 235. Essentially, it is the county asking us that if the county were to give us any information regarding a judiciary, a judge at any level, state, county, municipal, we would keep that information confidential.
There, interject for 1 second.
Yeah.
The information only has to be confidential, held confidential, in the event that the judicial officer requests it. And it's only good for 10 years or until, the judicial officer passes away. We've had multiple municipalities that we represent, receive the same agreement, and we've made the determination and advise them as well that we should sign what they've provided us. And we've also made the recommendation, I suppose, to Chad maybe that we should require Allegheny County to execute something similar, as well as, or this was from Allegheny and County that, and as well as third parties such as the assessors who would have information relative to judicial officers' home address. So we're working right now on a counter to this for the counties and third parties, but recommend that this gets signed for Allegheny County.
I'll make a motion to approve the village president to sign the confidentiality agreement with Allegheny County, prohibiting any village staff from sharing any personal information of past, current, or future judicial officers that staff may be privy to.
I'll second.
It's been a motion by Julian and a second by Frank. Any discussion? Okay, go ahead and vote your ballot. Okay, motion passes. Next up is 12 C.
This is a contract that we're requesting be approved with McMahon for Farmers Field Pavilion design in the amount of $42,700.
Make a motion to approve the contract with McMahon for Farmers Field Pavilion design for $42,700 as printed and circulated.
I'll second. So we got a motion by Mark and a second by Mike. Any discussion?
All I would say is McMahon graciously donated the conceptual phase of $6,600 for the first one, and this is moving into detailed design, which is got different contractors besides themselves, so it's kind of hard for donations on this when we need to get state approval.
Well, thanks to McMahon for that. Any discussion? If not, go ahead and vote your ballot. Okay, motion passes. Next up, 12 double D.
This is to approve a fund, to fund a I'm so sorry. The motion, the title is to approve. It's asking for approval to fund a supervisory position dedicated to the Village of Harrison and amending the contract between the Calumet County Sheriff's Office and the Village of Harrison.
Well, first, let's go ahead and get some information from Chad on the topic.
Sure, so, after being with the village for about a year and a half, it's, I think the Calumet County Sheriff's Department has, done fairly well. I think there's some areas where we can continue to work, and I believe in with, so I believe in that statement. I think one of the challenges is having 6 officers with a 7th dedicated next year here without, staff, without a supervisor on site. Has created some operational challenges for both the village and for the department. So in working with the two with Chief Deputy Rees and with Joe and the sheriff, I requested that they put together some costs on what it would be to bring a full-time patrol sergeant dedicated to Harrison to be here 5 days on, 2 days off, Monday through Friday. That person would oversee the day-to-day operations of the officers, would be able to kind of be let's say a PR person for the department. I think some of the challenges right now is there's not a point of contact because the officers are out on the road a lot. So when residents come in here and they've got concerns, it's calling down the Chilton and trying to work through dispatch to get an officer to talk to. So having a face to the department, I think would be helpful to also for them to kind of avoid what I'm calling some community policing type initiatives where they can go out and meet with residents and coffee with a cop or something of that nature to try to hear the concerns and be able to address them on the ground every day while they're working here versus Joe has done an excellent job at it, but he's got other duties down in Chilton and isn't in Harrison every day to be here to be a voice in a word. So I think it makes sense. I think these speeding problems that we've heard from residents is a top priority, and we have some stuff that we can work on and develop some benchmarks and work through some of that stuff to bring back to the board in the future. But having basically a person here that can kind of be the eyes and ears of the department seems to make sense. We also have 3 patrol cars that need maintenance and other things that come into it. So I think there's enough here to warrant bringing somebody here that can be dedicated. Now, the way it would be set up is ultimately a person obviously would report to the sheriff's department, to the lieutenant. But the day-to-day operations would be a close collaboration with myself and the other team members on the issues that are happening. So that we would, be able to brief on concerns and things we need to be working jointly on to try to accomplish for the betterment of the village. We would also be involved with the hiring practices for who this person is. It's a cost range of 129,000 to 155,000. And that's really based on whether it's a new hire or a promotion of an existing, depending on the pay grade of that promotion of an existing. So the worst case is 155,000. My recommendation in working with the finance director was to fund it with the savings from the assistant village manager salary if the board so chose. And if the board would choose this plan, we would have to amend the contract and bring that back. Then we would do a budget amendment to transfer the funds out of wages and salaries in our budget to the law enforcement line item to make sure that gets charged out appropriately for our services. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah.
I will make a motion to approve funding a supervisory position dedicated to the village of Harrison with 2 conditions. The first one being a satisfactory contract amendment being approved by both Calumet County and this village board that would outline in writing that this individual has shared reporting between the Harrison Village Manager and Calumet County for day-to-day operations, And the second contingency would be a budget amendment is approved by this board to fund this out of law enforcement charges versus the general fund. So that's the end of my motion. The importance of that contingent on that budget amendment is that it does not hit the mill rate and increase taxes. The law enforcement charges are paid by all properties, including those that are in TIDs. And so you're spreading that cost out among quite a bit more, several millions of dollars of property. So the residents themselves not having to pay quite as much of this cost.
I guess if we're gonna go through amending our contract, we're gonna have to have. Probably sit down to maybe look at other items on the contract, probably get Andy involved in stuff, so. Just wanna make sure that that's,
Able to.
Yeah.
Move that.
I mean. Derek, you're here, you have any comments?
I think Chad did a great job explaining, the situation, and I agree with what he said. Just to note for, I'm not sure, Chad, did you share that whole packet I gave you? Yes. With the board, okay. I had our finance department go through the appendix to the contract, which shows the financials on a yearly basis through 2028. I had them do a few things, because we were able to settle the union contract late last year for 25, 26, and 27. I had them adjust those rates for the average patrol deputy rate for those years. And then added the sergeant position in. Again, I'm using the high end numbers, so there won't be any shock. The amounts would be higher than that based on the projections. The sergeant position, again, that high end dollar amount at $155,000 for 2025 is based on January through December. So realistically, by the time, the county and the village would get together and discuss the contract and all those things, we're probably looking at summer before this would happen. So that cost would be less than that. The only other additional cost would be the equipment, just like we have when we add a new deputy every year, is just adding the equipment. And Chad and I had discussed that already previously. So I did speak with Todd Omesko, the county administrator, about this. He's aware of it, and is in agreement that if the village is willing to sit down and look at or reopen the contract, essentially, anyone wants to add a supervisory position, that's something we can do. Like I said, I agree with Chad, and Joe and I have actually had these conversations. And I think Joe does a great job given the position he's in. He's working out of Chilton. He tries to be up here as much as he can, but he has a lot of other responsibilities down there. Having that supervisor that's here and works out of this office helps not only the village and staff members at the village having that go-to person they can go to. It helps our deputies to actually have a physical supervisor here to help give them direction. And it even helps with members of the public that live in the village that can come in and actually talk to a supervisor here that's present during the week, generally during business hours. That position can be flexible, so if there are events going on, it doesn't necessarily have to be 8 to 4 every day, Monday through Friday. If there are meetings going on or things like that, you'd be able to attend that still as well. So I think it would be beneficial on both sides to include that position. And if there are any questions about anything I provided, feel free to ask. I did provide kind of the cost breakdown as well over the next through 2028, essentially, of what the additional amounts would look like on top of what the existing contract looks like.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
So motion was made by Matt and second by Mark. Any discussion from the rest of the board? Matt?
There's one other additional comment. I do just want to say I'm name appreciative of the sheriff's phone. When I was saying earlier too, he just online and support us. You do need to look at solutions. I think this is the key to one of those solutions, because I do know in the village roads, you need manpower, you can only do so much, so I do appreciate the dedication of the officer today.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, go ahead and vote your ballot. Motion passes. Next up is 12 EE.
There's been a request from EJJ Group regarding an extension of the utilities to facilitate a single-family subdivision development on Manitowoc Road. This is going to start the open discussion, and then possibly this may move into a closed session discussion, if the board so chooses.
Okay, Chad, you have something to add to what's in the memo?
Yeah, so this was a request to, extend utilities to service the property that's basically 240 acres, plots east of Woodland School on Manitowoc Road. Currently, the utilities for that property are in Woodland Road. That's kind of the dividing line between the, Harrison Utilities and the Darby sanitary district, so there's no utilities in Manitowoc Road. So the challenge in developing these properties is how to get the utilities up to that area. In working with me, he's put a cost of $300,000 to $330,000 to extend both water and sanitary through the basically a 40-acre to the south to a point where it can be dispersed out to service these other subdivisions, and that's shown on this drawing that's before you in pink. The other thing I would note is, so based on the discussion that we had today with the Ellers, staff is recommending that this could, if the board so choose to do this, that there could be this could be a good way to fund it through special assessments, some type of deferred assessment on the properties that could benefit from it in the future. We'll have to work through those actual terms as to what that would look like. The other piece of this is there is no utilities today to Farmers Field. We had budgeted $30,000 to put a well and septic in there. The costs are actually looking like closer to $40,000 to do a well and septic from the depth. So to spend that kind of money for something that could come next year or the year after seems kind of, a bad investment in my opinion, for something that we're never going to probably use after that fact. So there is some benefits, I think, to the village to try to get the utilities at least to the backside of Farmers Field to service the park. So if the discussion really is, this is the first time I think that Harrison Utilities has invested in their infrastructure. They've typically operated under developer funded, where the developer funds it and then deeds it over to the utility and they manage it. I think there's some benefit here in the fact that this could help with some future addition. This is infill development that the board has talked about over and over again. We're not going out and developing new areas. This is already urbanized areas. So I think there's some merit in having a discussion of what the board interest would be to have the utility extend the utilities and explore some type of special assessments. So that's kind of where we're at. We don't want to spend a lot of time working with the utility engineer McMahon if the board isn't supportive of this kind of larger concept.
Matt?
Thank you, Mr. President. So to help get discussion started, I don't believe we need to go into closed session for this. So I am going to make a motion actually on this. I do see the value to Harrison on this because of the park. I agree with the village manager. Why spend money on a well and a holding tank that we just become obsolete in the short term? In addition, I do know the Waverly Sanitary District, creating the Harrison utility, also has done deferred special assessments as well. So this would not be out of ordinary that way. So I will make a motion to authorize the village manager to negotiate with the property owner, Jim Family LLC, parcel 33528, to offer them a deferred special assessment for 10 years. Cost of approximately $330,000. I'm gonna say not to exceed $350,000, so if it would come, be larger than $350,000, it would need to come back to the board. At 0% interest. Because we're getting benefits from the park. And realizing that they might not be ready to develop, so that's why I'm making it a 0% interest. That special additional terms. I'll restate this at the end, Becky, for you. Additional terms would also be that deferred special assessment would be up for 10 years at 0%. Or upon development of the property or transfer of the property. So I'm gonna just repeat my motion since I explained a little bit as I went along there. So motion is for the village manager to offer Gem Family LLC, property owner parcel 33528, a deferred special assessment for costs not to exceed $350,000 at 0% for 10 years, where that's due in 10 years upon development of the parcel or transfer of ownership, whichever would come first.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's been a motion by Matt and a second by Mike. Any discussion? Does that make sense to what Matt had said, which I think, Chad, I don't know what your thoughts are, but it
I
sounds,
think it makes sense.
yep.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay. No further discussion, go ahead and vote your ballot.
Trustee Benton?
Sure.
Okay, motion passes. Next up is 12 double F. And so just so everyone's aware on the record that closed session 13B is no longer gonna be needed, so we took care of that one.
Correct. So we are on 12F, which is to have consider a request from Woodland Hayden LLC to discuss possible incentives for commercial development prior to potentially going into closed session to discuss a strategy and bargaining authority for the village manager planner to use in negotiations of a developer's agreement. So this is the open discussion session of.
Is it just one page?
Yes.
There isn't much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pictures, you get lots of pictures.
But this is open discussion, so I don't know what, Chad, you wanna, how you
So
see?
Hidden Haven LLC has approached the village to develop the property on the corner of Kitchen Road and 114 on the south side of the. And that property currently is farmland today. They're looking at building a event center / wedding barn development, if you would say. They've chosen that location based on its location to High Cliff State Park and kind of semi-rural, but on a major highway that has some visibility and those kinds of things. This is one of those areas that frankly from about Fire Lane 13 to Stonewall Road, that's gonna be probably never sewered or watered, just on the sheer fact. I guess you guys shouldn't say never, but it'll be a long time before water and sewer gets.
Be 100 years.
Harrison Utilities, because right now the sewer service planning area for Harrison Utilities stops at about between Fire Lane 12 and Fire Lane 13. So these areas would need to be developed into with water, with well and septic. The owner is aware of that. The cost to do that based on this development at about 4 million is about 517,000. He has made an approach to me about funding deferring some of those costs through an incentive because of the sheer cost of what that is. To do that based on pressure tanks and those other kinds of things. This gets into that discussion that we've had in the past about where commercial development should be. Previous to me, the village had commercial development all over the village, and there's a lot of places where it didn't make sense. Commercial development in this area does make sense, in my opinion, given the traffic counts. Because that's pretty much what people are looking for, although a lot of this is rural. So this is, you know, a discussion that the board, I think, needs to have over whether there's support for these semi-rural areas to try to bring what I would call agro-tourism kinds of uses. And draw people to Harrison and have a reason to come here. I would also say that this plays into the idea of the future, trying to generate overnight stays for potential hotel in this area as well. But so there is positives all around. These wedding bars are taking off all over the place, and they're, you know, becoming very popular. The question and the challenge, I think, before us is the only way to really provide incentive in this area would be to create a TIF district. And in order to create a TIF district, it's going to have to be a mixed use development. So we just can't have all commercial. We have to have some residential in there. This is really up to whatever the board wishes are for this. I'm not, there's really no other funding mechanism to try to make up for this roughly $250,000 that they would be looking for to kind of offset the cost, because in their mind, they wouldn't have those costs if they would go other areas that had water. So that's kind of the gist of it without getting into a lot of the specifics. I've seen the financials on the project and it appears to make sense. If we want to know more, that's what the closed session discussion would need to be. But I think having a high level discussion on whether the board is supportive of commercial in this area and any kind of incentive is where we're at,
Julian?
I just want to say that we maybe need to do more discussion on the financial end of this, but I love the concept of this. I think this would be something unique that would set Harrison apart. I think you mentioned that earlier. I mean, I can't even think of another thing like this that's anywhere near us. Gibbons Farm comes to mind, and I know that's a beautiful setting, and it's semi-rural and all of that. So I really like the concept of this. I think it's something different that we could offer that we don't.
Gentleman in the back here, had a question?
Yeah, I've been working on this for multiple years, and I've been talking to Chad about it for the last 6 months, and just came to him via email. But I know it's a difficult location, but sorry, I'm not a big speaker, and I think I know you from there. But the location out of town a little bit, but not too far out of town for certain reasons with hotels and other things. But it is a popular thing. Is it Jolene?
Julie.
The closest one that would mirror this would be Pulaski. I've visited all the ones in the area. I've been to Ohio to kind of copy this plan. So I just hope you give it consideration. I think it would bring business to the area. And I've done my research on it for the past. I think I've been working with Keller on it now, money things and stuff for the last 7 years. So I just look for some consideration with it. If you have further questions, like I gave everything that I have pretty much to Chad. If you need something else, I'm glad to give it to you. But I think it would be good for the area. And I did my homework on it, so.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I do think this concept is very interesting. And I think it could be unique for Harrison, and I do think we need some things that would draw some people to Harrison. What I do believe though is that the current location where this is at, I can't support this. Number one, I don't think the village is in a position to create another TID right now. We've got 6 right now already that we're trying to manage. Our village manager, you've got your hands full. A lot already on our 6 TIDs. We've got commercial development that we're really trying to get along our in corridor. In our Commerce Park, we just approved an offer tonight for that. And there's many lots and pieces available there. We've also got our business park we approved a purchase on tonight as well. And we're trying to get more of that business park filled out. My other big concern here too with the location, besides just the trying to get another TID open and all the overhead and everything that goes along with that, is really safety. We just met with state and local federal leaders last week about traffic concerns in the village. And we heard straight from the State Department of Transportation, they have no plans to do anything out here on State 114. As a captain on the fire department, I can say I've responded to numerous tragic fatal accidents along this stretch. And I just really it just really scares me, to be quite honest, of wedding parties, good events, highlight of a person's life, wedding parties getting over, they're all letting out, trying to get out here on a state highway. We just had a fatal accident at State Park or at 114 in Pigeon last year. So for those reasons, I can't support it for this location. What I would encourage the business owner or potential business owner to look at is work with our village manager. I do believe there's probably some other sites in the village that would not have those same concerns safety wise. I guess you have to look and see if it meets your business needs, but one of those would be also on a state highway, so you still got a lot of visibility. But up on State Highway 55, the village across from our business park that we're developing there, we just spent a fair amount of money to get sewer and water under 55, and that whole parcel is blank slate right now, and it's already TID as well. So I can see something like this going up there. It's still somewhat rural. You're not going to get a lot of housing and things around there either. And I could really see a fit for something like this on the, I guess I'm referencing the former KYB land is what I'm referencing. I could see something like this being a good fit on the former KYB land. Thank you.
So if this is discussions or anything else that the board wants to add? Are we looking for direction or?
Yeah, I would just like, I mean, that was an assumption you made now, but I'd like to ask Chad, I mean, is opening up another TID, I mean, what are your thoughts on looking into this further? Rather than just shutting the door on it today?
I mean, I think we can manage another TID if we've got the capacity to do it. I think the question is gonna be, it's gonna have to have some residential in it as well to make it meet the state statute. So we're gonna have to look at that piece, you know, what makes sense in that area, but there is a lot of open, you know, territory for, you know, that to happen. So I think, you know, if the board seems to be open in this, maybe it's better just to table this and let us go back to the drawing board and see what it looks like, or if there is some, you know, interest in moving something forward, then I mean, let's do it.
I think from a safety standpoint, Matt makes a very good thing here. We just had the big meeting here with all the parties to be here last week. It was very, very good meeting. And, you know, you have the outpost right down the road, which is busy 7 days a week. And if you come off for sure, we're coming back towards Appleton here, that the roads are full all the time. And now we're going to be putting 250 to 300 people on a wedding venue right on this road. I can see traffic nightmares right now from a safety standpoint. And what happens if, you know, I'm just from a safety standpoint, that it's, you know, I would agree with it. We already have a TID available. I like the concept. I think it's a great concept. And I would agree with Matt's recommendation of the KYB line over there. We already have an existing TID that gives options without residential requirements. And you know, that would be a great fit over there too. Not that far away, a couple miles away, but it's major crossroads over there. So it's actually going to get a lot of visibility there, probably more. And I think it would be more user friendly. That's my opinion.
Frank, so is creating a TID or TIP here the only way to move this project forward in this location?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, if the developer you know, if there wasn't, if he was able to fund the cost of the full, well and septic and not need us, you know, he could make a request, but the land is agriculture, so it's gotta be rezoned, so it's gonna come back before the board anyway. So I think before, and sorry, I'm speaking internally, but I think before he spends a lot of time putting together a lot of information on this, it makes sense whether the board is supportive of it or not. So I mean, there could be some other, you know, maybe there is no TIF incentive, but there's also other review pieces that the board has to consider for it. And if there's not support for that site for this to happen, then, you know, I think we need to go back to the drawing board and look for other options.
Mike, you have an opinion?
Also, me being on the fire department, you know, I've been, there's 3 fatals I know by vigilance 114. I've been at. But again, you know, I have a hard time turning into a TIF, you know. I know $517,000, a lot of money for a well and septic. But when I built my house, it was 50 grand for my well and septic. I didn't get a damn dime from anybody. So I'm gonna say,
Joanne?
Just one last thing. You know, we've gotten feedback. I know I've seen social media and people are sick of gas stations and car washes and the same old thing. And, you know, I'm not saying we, you know, go full speed ahead on this, but I don't think we should shut the door. I think we should table it. Maybe see if Chad can check some other options. I just think this would really be an exciting initiative. I get it about the safety, but you know, right now, we're not quantifying what the traffic's like there, and not all the traffic would be going here, it could be going the other way too, so. I would hate to just turn this down based on that, without doing some real concrete investigation to find out what options we have.
So is that what your preference is take it back, Chad, and? Yeah.
I don't need a damn thing. I don't like that. It was a consideration. So if you're talking about me only putting it up in this area because I need money, that's not the case. I sat here as a consideration of it. So I mean, this will go in a different area too. I'm not saying that I'm not threatening or anything, but this will be built somewhere in the valley. So
is it just
I live 2 miles from here. I thought it'd be cool. Yeah. The Dogway Club went down. And what went up? Yeah, that's exactly what she said. I'm not looking at, I guess I'm not looking maybe at the big picture of you guys knowing this area more than me. I'm not saying accidents happen, but I'm also not gonna look at all the negatives and say that this is the reason why you shouldn't have this in the area, so.
Is it just so you would put it up even if you didn't have a TID?
Maybe not in this area, sir.
Okay.
But I didn't like the comment. I just didn't like that, so.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and I don't know if we need a motion or something here, or what you want to see, Chad, so you have clear direction from the board, and I don't know if we're split here or not, I guess it would depend on what people say, I mean, I guess everything is. Knowing you saying that this would have to be a mixed use TID, that's everything where we can't be subsidized, we can't be. I don't think our residents want more housing in TIDs either. We've got a lot of housing trying to figure out how it's all gonna pan out. Like I said, we got a lot of open money to collect to get back in our existing TIDs, so not gonna say never, but until we would get some or other TIDs.
I'm not saying that the TIF would pay for housing incentives. We don't allow that now. It's just that we would have, and maybe, you know, we would have to have some kind of housing that would be part of the revenue generation.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
But yeah, I guess what I'm saying though too is I also, the same thing, if housing would be coming to go along here on 114, I would be saying the same thing. If a rezone would be coming for housing, I would, along here, I'd be voting no as well for the same traffic and safety concern until the state DOT comes up with a plan here of how they're gonna make 114 safer. I don't believe we could be contributing to adding any traffic up here in this stretch. Direct traffic that has to be accessing in the state park. There's been several fatal accidents right here. as well. We've had trucks in this building and stuff. This stretch of road here is an extremely unsafe stretch of road, and until that stretch of road is being safe, I wouldn't be in favor of adding any kind of traffic that way. So even a residential development, I would also be against. So that's where
The developer went back and spoke with the DOT and seeing what their input would be on putting a driveway entrance out into the road and whether they would approve something like that. Because they're gonna have to look at the traffic impacts, they're the experts.
You know, we have another 200 lot development, 249 Pigeon Road at Sherwood right now. Van zones are, and they're selling, I talked to some of them, so that the traffic is gonna continue to get worse here in the next year and a half before this is built, and that's just what I'm saying. You know, I'm just from a safety standpoint.
I believe you, my recommendation would be to work with the individual and see if they're interested in the KYB land and see if there's something else, something there that would make sense for them to put together, because you've already got sewer and water there as well. We spent money just recently putting under 55, and there's money been outlaid already for that. If there's no cost and put in as well and stuff, that eliminates that cost. It's land the village owns as well.
My first thing, sorry, I missed you.
Okay, no problem. So come work with, thank you. So work with Lee on, does that work? Would that work for a possible site?
You have enough? Okay. So I would say we'll have to bring it back.
Can we just table this?
Yep. All right, and that would also eliminate the need for the next closed session item. So with that said,
You said, but you didn't need to take a vote, see one of the said for them.
Are you tabling it or are you just taking no action?
We can just take no action, can't we?
Take no action, you can bring it back and
okay. All right, future agenda items. So I wanted to go through the future agenda items because I believe that some of the items there had been brought forth by a couple of trustees that are not on the board. So I just want to just double check and go through those that we make sure that we still want to have that as a future agenda item. So the first one is the review of zoning code chapter. I think that's Matt and MD is Mike Brantmeyer. So that, that's still. Next one is the review of the tree policy that was with Jolene and Darlene. Is Darlene's not on the board, so I would need someone to provide a second for that one to be a future agenda item. You will? Okay. Next one is the discussion extending Eisenhower Drive to Woodland Road. That was Matt and myself, so we'll continue pushing forward with that. Any other future agenda items that anybody wants to have? Not kind of, no, just kidding.
Before you, there was two on there, so one was a social networking policy. The other one was a motion by trustee Lancaster and Brandmeier to explore expansion of Village Hall. And you saw in my notes, I'm working with McMahon to try to do some future planning for what the space could be, so I'll be bringing that back to the board.
Okay. Matt?
Yeah, discussion around the board and staff on village sidewalks in new developments. Very important. I want to make sure this is listed in this future agenda item in new developments, because I don't want people to think we're looking at putting sidewalks and existing stuff that doesn't have it. So it's strictly a new development discussion.
Okay. I think that's in our road policy, or is that in our developer?
It's in the road policy. He would have to resend the previous resolution, but let me pull that information.
And this is just a discussion, so do you want a discussion or you want to actually change it?
I want to discuss because I want to see what the appetite is from the board and staff around, I don't want to get into too much of discussion here. So we've had people wanting to put trees in their front yards, for example, and the sidewalks get in the way of some of that. So I think we need to have some discussions on where in new development sidewalks make sense and where they may not, and what kind of feedback from the community that we want. When we can get it, make sure we're making we may make no changes. I just think none of that's been looked at for many, many years, and I think it's prudent for us to look at, what makes sense and what doesn't.
So is it safe to say you want to discuss the policy of sidewalks for new subdivision development?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Sidewalk policy.
I think that was, I need a second, right?
I'll second.
There you go. Any other future agenda items? If not, we call this meeting adjourned. Actually, do I need a motion to adjourn? Yeah.
I just wanted to double check with the future meetings that we are going to push, or the board supports moving the Board of Review to follow the May board meeting instead of being before it. So then at the May meeting, you'll be able to officially appoint the 3 volunteers.
Yes.
Okay. It's literally gonna be a 5-minute meeting, so.
And then the other thing under future meetings is we may need a future meeting to award the fire station contract. Bid opening is scheduled for May 29th. And the week of June 9th, the consultant has asked if we could special board meeting to award it so we can get contracts in place. So hopefully work can start on that by July 1st. So I will be in contact with you on finding a date that works for everyone.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned.